Brave Pilgrims, Chapter 10. Here we go. I immediately saw a drastic change in the surrounding forest. Instead of the mostly green leaves of springtime, now the leaves were various shades of vibrant yellow, red, orange, and purple. It was definitely autumn, and it felt like the perfect scenery for celebrating the first Thanksgiving. Freedom and Tommy were experts at jumping off Liberty. They quickly slipped off their shoes and put their pilgrim clothing on over their modern-day clothes. "It feels like we were just here," said Freedom. "We were," said Tommy. "Technically, we came here this morning, but about 7 months have passed at Plymouth Plantation." I pulled out my smartphone, tapped the camera app, and switched it to video mode. I turned the phone toward Liberty and said, "You're on. The students back in class will be able to see and hear you." What word in the first paragraph is another word for the fall, the season?
Good. Autumn.
Autumn, good. So watch your spelling on that. It's in the first paragraph. A-U-T-U-M-N, autumn. Just the word. Doesn't need to be a sentence. Liberty cleared his throat and said, "Hello, class. It's me, Liberty. I can't wait to get back and visit with all of you. Right now, we're approaching the place where the Pilgrims first settled in America. It's called Liberty's Landing." "Liberty?" I whispered loudly. "What?" Liberty whispered back. "It's not called Liberty's Landing. You know that." "I was just making sure you were paying attention, although I do think Liberty's Landing has a nice ring to it, don't you?" "Get on with it." Okay. We're approaching Plymouth Plantation. The Pilgrims have been living here for about 10 months. And now a word from our sponsor. We don't have a sponsor. We don't? Well, we should. The iced tea factory that you work for should be sponsoring us. Seriously. Or what about butterball turkeys or stovetop stuffing or Liberty? I think I can take it from here. For the record, just because I'm a horse doesn't mean I don't have good ideas. Oh, I do. In fact, I have a dream. One day, I won't be judged by the color of my skin, but by the content of my character. Wait a minute. That was brilliant. I could build upon that. It's brilliant because the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. said it first, I said. Oh. Just goes to show you how great minds think alike. What famous person did Liberty quote in the 11th paragraph?
Martin Luther King Jr.
Yes. I turned the camera toward the Pilgrim settlement. Class, this is Mr. Revere speaking. You can't see me because, as I mentioned before, the camera I'm using is attached to my coat, disguised as a button. We are approaching the festival now. Look at all the Indians, said Freedom. Sure enough, I counted about 100 Indians, double the number of English pilgrims. I looked for William Bradford or Miles Standish or Elder Brewster, but none of them could be found. Mr. Revere, Tommy said softly, I see a bunch of kids playing games over by the brook. We're going to go check it out, okay? Have fun, I said. Tommy and Freedom ran off toward the brook, and I started weaving my way through the guests. Finally, I saw a familiar face. Squanto was walking in my direction and waved as I approached. You must be Rush Revere, he said. Welcome. Thank you, I said as we shook hands. It is an honor to meet you, Squanto said. William hoped you would come and bring Tommy and Freedom. We just arrived, I said as Liberty wandered toward the tables of food. Tommy and Freedom ran off to see what games are being played by the brook. Smart children, Squanto said. William recognized your horse and asked that I come find you. Come, he is with Massasoit. I will introduce you to the leader of the Poconokeets. As you can see, he has brought many of his people to the Harvest Festival. I nodded and said, it looks like he brought his entire village. Before I was captured and taken to Spain, I remember Massasoit had a great army. His people numbered almost 12,000 with 3,000 warriors. What word in the last paragraph means the same or nearly the same as soldiers?
Warriors.
Warriors. And it's the very last word, so you can see how to spell it there. W-A-R-R. So it's a double R. I-O-R-S. That's remarkable, I said. Yes, but after years of disease, Massasoit was left with fewer than 300 warriors. I remembered Squanto talking about how many of his people died. I didn't realize how great a number that really was. I assumed that Massasoit's visit with William Bradford and the others went well? Yes, very well. Massasoit and the people of the Mayflower worked out an agreement of peace. They promised to help and protect each other. I liked the idea of a peace agreement. I was very glad to see the friendships that had been forged between the Pilgrims and the Poconokeets. As I followed Squanto through the maze of people, I have to admit, I felt a little nervous and overwhelmed. I'm not usually starstruck, but walking around meeting exceptional people like Squanto, who left such a mark on American history, was just incredible. Not to mention, I was about to meet the man who could command his warriors to capture or kill the Pilgrims like the Indians did with the French sailors who had arrived in previous years. Instead, he chose to befriend them, and from the sound of it, the Pilgrims had helped the Indians as well. As we approached several outdoor fires, I saw William Bradford standing next to a strong and muscular Native American. His chest was bare, but he wore a thick necklace made of white shells. His long black hair was cut short on one side, and his face was painted dark red. He had several warriors standing with him. Their faces were also painted, some red, some white, some yellow, and some black. William presented Massasoit with a pair of knives and some copper chains. In return, Massasoit presented William with some furs and a quiver full of arrows. The two men smiled upon trading the items. Squanto turned to me and said, "Massasoit does not speak English, but I will translate for you." As Squanto approached the sachem, Massasoit turned and acknowledged him. The two spoke briefly, and Squanto pointed in my direction. Both Massasoit and William turned, and upon seeing me, William rushed over to greet me. "Rush Revere, as always, your timing is perfect. I see that Squanto has found you." He took my arm and led me to Massasoit. "It is my pleasure to introduce you to the Indian king, Massasoit." In his native tongue, Squanto translated for William and then introduced me to the king. I reached out my hand toward Massasoit, and he shook it with a strong grip. He looked to be about 35 years old and as lean and fit as any professional athlete. He smiled and spoke a language that was complete gibberish to me. I smiled back and nodded my head. Squanto said, "He says that you have a strong name, like a rushing river." Massasoit spoke again, and Squanto said, "He asks if you have brought anything to trade." Oh, I felt bad that I had nothing to trade with the Indian leader. Or did I? I slipped my hand into my pocket and pulled out the peppermint candy that was still there from our trip to Foster's Family Diner. I said, "I have nothing to trade, but I do have a small gift." I handed a piece of candy to Massasoit, who accepted it in his palm. He looked at it closely. What did Rush Revere have in his pocket?
A peppermint candy. A peppermint yummy candy.
Peppermint candy. He looked at it closely. "Peppermint candy," I said. "You'll need to take off the wrapper, then place it on your tongue and suck on it. It's sweet like honey." Squanto translated my words, and Massasoit placed the hard candy on his tongue. His eyebrows raised, and he nodded at the warriors next to him. He smiled and spoke briefly as he continued to suck on the candy. Squanto said, "He says your gift is good. He likes it very much." Then Massasoit spit the candy into his palm and offered it to the warrior on his right, who took it and placed it on his tongue. One by one, the Indians surrounding Massasoit Each took a turn sucking on the candy and tasting the peppermint until it made its way back to the Pokanoket leader. Obviously, no one in the 17th century was familiar with germs or bacteria and how they can be passed along by the food we eat, the surfaces we touch, and even by the air we breathe. But they knew good candy when they tasted it. Could you imagine doing that right now with COVID going on, sharing a candy? Would we ever do anything like that right now? No way. Blah. Nope, 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 nope.
I would get my own candy.
Yep. William spoke. Squanto, please tell Massasoit that our home is his home, and thank him again for the 5 deer that he brought to our celebration. As Squanto translated, I turned to see, let's see what food was turning on the wooden spits over the outdoor fires. I turned to see the many deer, ducks, and wild turkeys that turned on wooden spits, roasting over the outdoor fires. Meats and vegetables were thrown into large metal pots similar to Dutch ovens and were simmering over hot coals. It smelled delicious. Squanto, Massasoit, if you'll excuse me, I'd like to show Rush Revere our settlement, said William. Squanto translated and Massasoit nodded. As William and I walked away, Squanto stepped alongside me and said, I have a gift for Freedom. If it is acceptable to you, I would give it to her before she leaves. I think that would be wonderful, I said. Very good, Squanto nodded. I will get it to her. Thank you, Rush Revere. You have been a good friend to William. And Squanto has been a good friend to me in our settlement, said William. He taught us where to, here we go, check all that apply, get ready. He taught us where to hunt and fish, how to plant and grow the best crops, what herbs to use for medicines, and how to trade for supplies with other tribes. We believe he's been sent from God as an instrument to help us grow and prosper. You are too kind, William, said Squanto. God, as you say, rescued me from slavery in Spain. The Catholic friars, holy men, helped me escape. They risked their lives to free me so that I could return to my native land. I have much to be grateful for, and I choose to show my gratitude by serving my new friend and holy man, William Bradford. I could see how Squanto would consider William to be holy. The Puritans prayed many times a day, and they never worked on the Sabbath. Do you know what day the Sabbath is?
No.
Sunday. Sunday.
Yeah.
So they never worked on Sunday. They worked Monday through Saturday, but then they considered Sunday the Sabbath. That was the Lord's day. That was the day you went to church. That was the day you did most of your praying. So you didn't do any physical labor. You didn't work on Sunday. There are still some businesses out there that are closed on Sunday for that reason. So that kind of still goes on a little bit. With great admiration, I think I skipped something, hang on. They tried to show compassion to all men and women and looked for solutions to their problems without violence. With great admiration, I turned to William and said, Mr. Bradford, I must thank you so much for inviting me. I am beyond honored. William replied, Tommy is a good lad. And then the next page is a map of their Plymouth plantation. You can see where everybody lived. Who lived next to the common house? So let's find the common house. Where is the common house? Oh, there it is. Yep.
Peter Brown.
Peter Brown. Good job. Yep. I wasn't sure if I would see you at the common house, but I knew he would find a way to get my letter to you. I wanted you to be here to celebrate with us. We all have so much to be grateful for on this day. Yes, I agreed. Everyone seems so joyous, far different than a short while ago. It's true, said William, but the real difference came when every family was assigned its own plot of land to work. That was the turning point. They were permitted to market their own crops and products. This has had very good success. Men and women worked harder, and much more corn was planted than otherwise would have been. Second paragraph. What is the antonym or opposite of sad? Yes, I agreed. Everyone seems so joyous, far different than a short while ago.
Joyous.
Joyous. Good job. Yeah. The turnaround to success is truly extraordinary, I said. And you say that it all happened soon after you stopped sharing the profits that gave every man a common share or equal amount? Yes. At first, we really had great expectations and high hopes that all people would embrace the idea of a commonwealth. But it didn't work. In fact, it almost ruined us. We learned that it wasn't actually fair at all. But William is a smart man, said Squanto. He gave people their own land. He made people free. No more slaves to a common house. They set up trading posts and exchanged goods with Indians. William nodded and said, in no time we found that we had more food than we could eat ourselves. We realized that our profits would soon allow us to pay back the people that sponsored our voyage to America. In fact, we expect more Puritans to arrive, and surely more Europeans will come to trade with us. I smiled at what William was saying. This, of course, is something that America has long since learned, but I marveled at how quickly the Pilgrims figured it out. When people have individual freedom to work, build, create, market, and make a profit for themselves, the community prospers faster than it would when these freedoms aren't available to men and women. It was obvious that this first Thanksgiving wouldn't be possible if William Bradford hadn't boldly changed the way Pilgrims worked and lived. If you'll excuse me, said Squanto, I must check on Massasoit, and then I will find Freedom and give her my gift. Again, it's a great honor to meet you, I said. We said goodbye, and Squanto slipped back into the crowd at the exact same time as Miles Standish walked up to us. He said, he'll make a fine military man. Excuse me? I asked, confused. Your boy, Tommy, said Miles. I found him by the brook. He's quick as a snake and light on his feet. I was very impressed. He's a natural. I hope you don't mind that I gave him a gift. That was the 6th paragraph, and our question says, what is the simile in the 6th paragraph? And a simile is when the writer compares one thing to another. So, comparing by the brook, quick as a snake, very impressed, or he's a natural. Quick as a snake. So he's comparing Tommy to a snake. Good. Quick as a snake. A gift? I'm sure he was thrilled to get a gift from you, I said. Indeed he was. He said his mother might be worried, and I told him, nonsense! He should wear it proudly day and night. Thank you, Miles, I said. And, exactly what was it that you gave? My words were drowned out by the sudden sound of pounding drums and the loud shrieks coming from near the outside fires. I turned to see Indians dancing around a fire ring, their faces streaked with paint. Both Indians and Pilgrims smiled as they watched the performing Poconokeets twirl and bend and wave their arms as they sang and chanted to the drums. After several minutes, the mesmerizing dancers finally stopped, and several Indians whooped and hollered for more. I turned toward William, who handed me a plate of food. I'm sure you haven't had time to eat, he said. Miles won't be joining us. As you may know, he too lost his wife last winter and is eager to find someone to marry. He fancies a young lady and has gone to court her. Please sit and join me. I thanked him and took my plate, which was loaded with food, including sliced turkey, a stew of meat and vegetables, and bread pudding. We ate until my belt felt like it was 2 sizes too small. Come, said William, we will walk off this fine meal. I have something I want to show you. We walked along the row of houses toward the harbor. When we reached the shore at Plymouth Bay, we walked south along the sandy beach and then followed a trail that led slightly uphill toward a giant granite boulder the size of a large elephant. We climbed until the ground was level with the boulder, which stuck out of the side of the hill and into the ocean. My natural instinct was to step out onto the rock and look out over the shoreline. The breeze was cool to my face. The waves were soothing as they rocked back and forth along the beach. Sandpipers pecked for sand crabs just before running from the approaching waves. "You are standing on Plymouth Rock," said William. "We used this rock to guide the Mayflower back to this place after we found it on one of our discovery expeditions. I had heard of Plymouth Rock since I was a little boy. I imagined a shallop or small boat could have used this rock at half tide as a dock for the Pilgrims to step onto dry ground rather than wading through frigid waters." What did William want to show Rush Revere? Plymouth Rock. Yep, good. "I have tried to be like this granite boulder, steadfast and immovable," said William. "It has not been easy, but God has made the impossible possible. The Bible says we should build our house upon the rock. I have thought about this since we arrived. I have thought about this through each of our trials in the New World. Though the winds may blow and the storms may rage, the rock does not cower in fear. Do you know why?" I waited for William's response, eager to know the answer. He continued, "It is fearless because it knows where it belongs." I paused before I said, "And you know that the Pilgrims belong here at Plymouth Bay?" "Yes," said William, nodding. "And even each of us can be fearless and strong like this rock when we know, without a doubt, where we belong and what we should do. God helps us to know these things. I knew we would make it to the New World. I knew we would find a home like Plymouth Plantation. I knew, eventually, that I would need to give each family their own piece of land and allow them the freedoms to enjoy their profits of their labor. And I know today that this land will prosper and become a great nation. It will remain a great nation as long as we are one nation under God." "Thank you, William," I said. "I have treasured our time together, and I will do my best as a history teacher to make sure that people across America never forget you or the Pilgrims." Before we turned back toward the festival, I slipped out my phone and discreetly took a picture while William was distracted by several seals playing in the harbor below. When we arrived back at the first Thanksgiving, I said, "Thank you again, William. I wish you the very best in everything you do." "The same to you," said William. He clasped my shoulder and we embraced. We said goodbye, and I decided to head over to the brook to find Tommy and Freedom. Several children were playing a variety of games like keep away and leapfrog and hide and seek. Some Pilgrim children were playing tic-tac-toe in the dirt. Another pair was playing checkers with an old water-damaged checkerboard and 2 different colored stones. Finally, I saw 2 children sitting on tree stumps, and in between them on a third stump was a very pristine but old-looking chessboard with elaborately carved chess pieces. Oddly, one was a Pilgrim boy with a sword hanging from his belt, and the other was an Indian girl with a deerskin dress trimmed with fur and matching moccasins. She also wore a necklace of shimmering shells and 2 hawk-like feathers in her hair. An odd pair of chess opponents, I thought. Both had their heads down, intently studying the chessboard. The next second, the girl moved her queen to its final resting place and said, "Checkmate." The boy was motionless, apparently stunned, and the girl raised her head. As the girl raised her head, I quickly stopped the video on my smartphone and asked, surprised, "Freedom, is that you?" "Hi, Mr. Revere. Is it time to go?" "Where did you learn to play like that?" said Tommy. "Playing chess is a lot like tracking animals," said Freedom. "I hunted you, and you stepped right into my traps." "Huh?" asked Tommy, completely bewildered. "Let's play again," he said, determined. "Not now. We need to head back to the modern day. Has anyone seen Liberty? Oh, and by the way, where did you get the Indian dress?" What word in the first paragraph means the same or nearly the same as hug?
Embrace.
Embrace, yes. When you embrace something, you hold on to it. Good job. And then we have a picture. A little representation of the first Thanksgiving. "It was a gift from Squanto," said Freedom. "We talked for a little while. He said I should be proud of who I am and that I shouldn't care what people think of me. He knows a lot." And I thought, I'm sure he does. "Yeah, and Miles Standish, gave me this awesome sword. Tommy unsheathed it and sliced through the air. We practiced for like an hour. It was so fun. I bet it was, but let's not do that when we get back to the classroom, okay? I asked politely. I jumped when whiskers tickled my ear and I heard, "I sure wish they had a livery here." "What's a liberty?" Tommy asked. "Not a liberty. I said a livery. It's like a spa for horses." "Oh, yeah. I thought you said liberty, not livery." "Hey, that's sort of a tongue twister," said Tommy. "Try and say livery liberty 10 times really fast." "Oh, that's easy," said Liberty. "Livery, liberty, livery, liberty, liberty, liberty. Oh, hogwash. As we walked to the place in the forest where we first arrived, I told Tommy, Freedom, and Liberty about my conversation with William Bradford. "That's awesome you got to stand on Plymouth Rock," Tommy said. I looked back at Plymouth Plantation and marveled at what the Pilgrims had accomplished. These people accomplished the impossible. They survived the unthinkable. And they started a new way of living that would influence the making of the greatest country in the world. Okay, in the third paragraph, it says that Tommy unsheathed his sword. What does unsheathed mean?
Took it out of its
Yes, he took it out of its holder. Good job. He took it out. The Pilgrims taught us that religious freedom comes with a price. They paid it with their lives, while others lost the people they loved the most. But their sacrifices would not be in vain. I would miss my time with William Bradford. He was an exceptional American and someone who truly made a difference in the making of the United States of America. Of course, he would never fully see how the Mayflower Compact influenced the future lawmakers who ultimately created the Constitution. But I was excited to return to class and review what we had learned with the other students. "So, where are we going to go on our next time travel adventure, Mr. Revere?" asked Freedom. "Eager to go already?" I asked. "Absolutely," said Tommy. "I've decided to visit Liberty's hometown and home time," I said. "Really?" asked Liberty excitedly. "It's time to experience the history of the events leading up to the signing of the Declaration of Independence." "There's no place like home," Liberty said. "Unless your home is in a country ruled by a ruthless king, or sitting under a lightning storm, or on top of an active volcano, or in the path of stampeding elephants, or on top of a termite farm, or in the path of a falling comet, or..." Tommy, Freedom, and I simply smiled at each other as we listened to Liberty's endless list. My life has never been the same with the time-traveling horse, I thought, and I wouldn't have it any other way. All right, so what event in history are they going to visit in the future? What's next?
The signing of the Declaration of Independence.
You got it. That's it. Where do we go next?
Signing of the Declaration of the Independence.
Yep,
That's hard to say.
it is. A note from the author. Oh, we have another question. Okay, let's do this real fast. Here we go. Can you imagine being on the Mayflower, crossing a wide open ocean with crashing waves shaking the boat? What about landing in a place you have never been and needing to build everything in your town from scratch? The Pilgrims truly were an amazing group of people who risked everything in order to be free and live as they thought best. William Bradford, Miles Standish, William Brewster, Squanto, and Samoset were all brave and courageous figures. These were ordinary people who accomplished extraordinary things. Our country's history is filled with just these kinds of people. Their stories are both unbelievable and fascinating. I am really looking forward to sharing more of that with you in future books. My buddy Rush Revere and his horse Liberty can go anywhere in American history anytime they want. How cool is that? I really hope you join us all for the next great adventure. Quick, who taught Tommy how to sword fight?
Miles Standish. Miles Standish.
Good job.
Is that the end of the book? Is that it?
That is it. And then you've got some pictures.
No.
Liberty asks, "How smart are you? Beware, he thinks he can stump you." All right, so I think there's a little quiz, but you don't have to actually fill out anything. There's a little quiz at the end.
On the boat.
What was the name of the boat the Pilgrim used to cross over the Atlantic Ocean?
Mayflower.
Where did the Pilgrims start their journey?
England.
And Holland, too. Remember, they were in England, then they went to Holland, and then they went back to England, and then they went back. Okay, good. Where did Rush Revere, Tommy, and your favorite horse time travel to first? Holland. Holland.
Mayflower.
Oh,
Holland.
no, they went to Holland first.
Holland.
They went to Holland, yeah. Who was the main leader on the boat?
Miles Standish.
No, William Bradford.
Yeah, I think it was William Bradford. I'd say William Bradford. Where did the Pilgrims land?
Plantation.
Plymouth Plantation, good.
Yeah.
What color were my shoes in Holland? This is Liberty. Remember the shoes that he put on his hooves?
The wooden.
Yeah.
brown wooden shoes.
Yeah.
And
They were yellow. What did we all say before we traveled back in time? Rushing to history. Good. Who showed Tommy how to sword fight?
Miles Standish.
What did Squanto teach freedom to do? What did Squanto teach freedom to do? I don't know if I remember that. Who invited Rush Revere to the first Thanksgiving?
William Bradford.
What was the name of the house where the town gathered?
Common House.
Why did the Pilgrims brave the crashing waves to reach a new land? What were they searching for?
Land.
What did they want to do that the king wouldn't let them do?
They wanted to pray. They wanted to have the freedom to pray to who they wanted.
That's right, their own church, religious freedom. Good job. Were there any children on the boat? Were there any pets on the boat?
Not including horses.
Yes, there was. Remember the puppy?
There was dogs. Oh, who fell overboard? I don't remember the man's name.
It says not including Tommy. It says
John something.
Yeah,
His name was John something.
I don't remember.
I can't remember his last.
All right.
His first name was John. I can't remember his last name.
Okay, I'm going to jump down to the bottom. If you want to see the answers, there's a website, www.2ifbyt.com under T the People. Huh. We might have to check that out. All right, that is the end of that book.